Yo, what's going on, Dragon Ballers? Welcome back to another beginner's guide video. In today's video, I'm going to show you the best deck you can build with just 2 copies of the blue future structure deck. So if Trunks is one of your favorite characters like he is mine, make sure to go pick up 2 copies of this structure deck. You can do that using the link in the description to TCG Player. It would greatly help me out. But anyways, we're going to go into that in today's video. And at the end of the video, I will also show you some really good budget ways that you can upgrade this deck. So without further ado, if you're new, make sure to subscribe and let's just get right on into it. So of course we'll start with the leader. So the leader is really cool because he has a permanent that says during your opponent's turn, if one of your life would be placed in your hand or drop, you can reveal that life instead and then place it in your hand. So if you guys are familiar with what critical does, your life can technically never be critted because if it would be placed in the drop, you can just reveal it and put it right to your hand. So that's a pretty cool thing. The auto, when you attack, you can look at the top 5, add up to 1 blue Saiyan or Earthling or Unison with the cost of 2 to your hand. And then the Awakening Edition is when a player's life's at 4 or less, or a player has 3 or more Z energy, that means either player, you can awaken. And then we have the SS2 Trunks Envoy of Justice returns. So same permanent as before we talked about. When this card attacks, you can draw 1 card. And then another auto at the end of the turn, you can switch one of your blue energy to active mode. Then he has another activate main for 2 blue energy. You draw 1 card, then you choose one of your opponent's battle cards and place it at the bottom of the owner's deck. Then if you control a Z battle card with the cost of 5, this guy himself gains plus 10k and double strike, so he will gain some game-ending power. Why does it specify a Z battle card with the cost of 5 or more? Well, that's because it comes with one that is actually very strong, and that is Ssb Vegito, Godly Spirit. So this will be a Z battle card you'll play in any blue deck. I can guarantee you that, at least for the first or 2 sets of Z series. He's really good though. He has Deflect, Triple Strike, Barrier, and Blocker. He has his first auto, which is tied to the Trunks leader. If you activate this guy's blocker or when this card attacks, you can swap a card from your life with a card from your hand. Now doing that defensively is gonna proc his permanent, Trunks' permanent, where you can reveal that life and add it to your hand. So there are various cards in the deck that we play that have effects when they're revealed. That's gonna be relevant for later. But his other auto is at the end of the turn, switch card to active mode, so his blocker will be ready. Then you choose one of your opponent's battle cards, and then your opponent chooses a card in their hand, and those both go to the bottom. So again, very powerful blue Z battle card, auto include in just about every single blue deck you'll play for the foreseeable future. Now we'll go into the main deck. We have our 4 non-negotiable super combos. You will always play 4 super combos in any deck that you play in the Dragon Ball Super card game, so make sure to include them. When I build decks, I forget these all the time, so make sure not to do that. Then we have 2 copies of my Bulwark of the Future. Gives you some searchability, searches some future Trunkses, which there are a good number of targets in the deck for, and it also searches for a Unison that costs 2, so it is just a decent card. I'm only playing 2 copies of it though because I've cut down on a few of the Trunkses in the deck, so I didn't want to play too many of these and potentially whiff on them. Then we have 3 copies of a really good reprint for the deck, SS Trunks Godsling Technique. This is a free counterplay card as long as you have a Unison, a blue Unison in play with 2 or more markers on it. There are many cards of this for the various different colors, except for black for whatever reason. But these types of cards, these free counterplays are very strong. Only playing 3 of the Trunks because many cards nowadays unfortunately have Deflect, so this gets a little bit less mileage, but it can still be a key card to use in different scenarios, and it is searchable off of your mind. Then we have 4 of the new Unison that came with the starter deck, and that is Ssb Vegeta, Committed to Victory. So his auto is, during your opponent's turn, you can swap a card from your hand with a card in your life. And again, since it's during your opponent's turn, that is going to proc your leader's permanent. And then the +0 is going to go ahead and offer you some removal during your own turn, so that's not bad. It is a bit unfortunate that this guy cannot gain any markers during either player's turn unless you use the game mechanic called Unison Growth, where you take a copy of Unison in your hand and put it under the same type of Unison that you have in play. That's a bit unfortunate, but it is nice that it guarantees your revealed from life cards get their effects, much like Ssb Vegito. So that is a nice kind of silver lining. And then we are playing 2 copies of an older Unison, Spring Kai of Time, Unison of History. This can also help fix your life, albeit during your own turn, so you can't use your leader's permanent during that, but that's okay. This just still helps you remain consistent. Make sure we see Unison by turn 2, because we really want to do that in this deck. Then we have 4 copies of another new card. We have SS2 Trunks Hopeful Strike. So he's got Deflect, so he can't be stopped by any kind of conventional counterplays. If you don't have a Unison, when you play this card, when this card is played, play up to one Ssb Vegeta committed to victory from your deck with a marker on it. So again, going into your opponent's turn, his auto, the Unison's auto rather, will proc to generate your permanent. And then his activate battle for a blue, he himself can gain 15k and double strike. So he goes from a measly 10k to a 25 double strike and can help close out games if the situation presents itself. Then we have another new card for the deck, and it's one of the ones that activates when it's revealed from our life, and that is Ssb Goku, Hope for the Future. So this permanent says if he's revealed from your life during your opponent's turn, you can play him instead of adding him to your hand, and then you draw a card. So it's actually taking a damage, but also playing card, which is really good. Then he has the second auto for a blue energy. If your leader's Trunks and it's your opponent's turn, when you combo with this guy, you swap a card from your hand with your energy. Now that's pretty important because we have the next 8 cards, which are Ssb Goku, Hope for Victory, and Ssb Vegeta, Blaze of Passion. So this Goku and this Vegeta are practically the same card. They both have permanents that say during your opponent's turn, if they are revealed from your life, they go into your energy, but at the end of the next turn, they go to the drop area. So that's a form of temporary ramp, which you can manipulate via this card, via your Unison, so you can make sure these end up in your life, which is really good. Now, where this Ssb Goku Hope for the Future comes into play is if you happen to ramp one of these temporarily, and then you happen to play a copy of this Goku, you're going to be able to combo this Goku, and then again, do the whole hand energy swapping mechanic. And now that this card's no longer in your energy, the auto of where it goes to the drop is no longer going to apply. So if you're following what I'm saying, you practically made that ramp permanent, and it is very convoluted. It's one of the reasons why I don't think Trunks is going to be all that strong of a meta deck unless someone finds the perfect build, but that is kind of how you want to do things. So just something to consider for you there. We'll move these out of the way though, and we'll get on to the next set of cards. Next up, we have 2 copies of SS2 Trunks, A Brighter Future. So he's a pretty cool card in Trunks decks. He's unique, so you can only control 1 copy in the battle area, which is why I'm only playing 2. And then if you have a blue Unison in play, this card only costs 2, so you can play it for 2 energy. Then at the end of each turn, he will draw a card, actually during the end of your opponent's turn. And then activate battle, pay 2 energy. This card gets plus 10,000 power and triple strike for the battle. So a little bit similar to the Trunks we read earlier, where this can also generate some game-ending power. Fortunately, it doesn't have barrier or unique, so sometimes this thing doesn't stick around for too many turns, but it can be a neat little game ender on like turn 4 or beyond. Then we are playing 3 copies of Ssb Vegito, Paralyzing Prowess. This card is actually super scary. So this can evolve over a Vegito for 4 energy, and wink wink, there's no other Vegito in the structure deck. It can evolve right over your Z battle card, which you may want to do in some cases. It's got Deflect, Triple Strike, and Barrier. When it's played and when it attacks, your opponent takes 2 cards from their hand and puts them on the bottom of their deck. So this is a very quick and dirty way to make your opponent lose a lot of cards very quickly. Again, remember, like, this thing is going to start taking cards away from your opponent. This is going to start taking cards away from your opponent as soon as you play it and attack with it. So you're playing that kind of game of attrition where you're putting your opponent in a bad spot to where they're going to be forced to eventually take these big double strikes. That's really good. Then we have, for our next card, 4 copies of Vegeta, Warrior That Crossed Time. So he is simply a 1 cost negate if our leader is a yellow Trunks. And yeah, I mean, blue decks have a lot of extra energy to work with. You notice the leader untaps 1 at the end of every turn. So having a negate that generates an attacking body is very good. And we're going to complement that with 4 copies of Dimension Magic, as well as 4 copies of Senzu Bean. And I guess here I might as well talk about our blocker negates. So these are 10 cards that are pretty much non-negotiable in most blue decks. Most blue decks will play up to 4 copies of D-Magic, up to 4 copies of Bean, and anywhere from 2 to 3 copies of Chilled Army Reinforcements. These 8 cards have been staples in blue for years at this point. Chilled Army is a newer card. Every color has a set of blocker negates. That's what we call them. Basically, if you're a 5 or less life, you can use them by taking the life instead of paying the energy cost. You only very rarely want to actually pay the 2 energy to play this card. And then when you do that, you generate a token that gains blocker. So you're stopping multiple attacks. D-Magic untaps multiple energy, so you can then use Vegeta, Warrior That Crossed Time, or use Senzu Bean, which will then untap more energy. So you can see the gimmick of blue. It just gets you a whole ton of energy very quickly. And this leader ramps energy, so you're getting even more energy very quickly. But that's the entire contents of the main deck, crafted out of only 2 starter decks. Let's talk about some ways to upgrade this deck for cheap. Now, if you guys are new to Dragon Ball Super, you may or may not be familiar with the term of a secret rare. What a secret rare is basically is a high rarity card that has the ultimate tag on it. What ultimate means is you can only include one card with ultimate in your entire deck. So I'm recommending Heroine's Lineage here to you guys because it is a sneakily powerful secret rare and it is the cheapest secret rare on the market. Secret rares are generally very, very expensive, but Heroine's Lineage only runs from like $20 to $40. And again, it's very sneakily good. You can take control of a battle card during battle, which will abruptly end the battle. So if your opponent was perhaps going for game or trying to force some pretty serious damage through, nope, Heroine's Lineage, take control of that battle card. Now you stop the attack and you gain control of that powerful battle card. So real good pickup. You'll be able to play this card in any deck you build for the rest of the game's history. So definitely pick it up. Then for some Z battle cards to talk about, we have Ssb Vegeta Surmounting the Impossible. I've been talking about this in every single beginner's guide video because it is just that good of a Z battle card. And even though it's a black card, it does not have a specified cost, and Z energy cost does not care about the color of the Z energy. So this is playable in literally any deck. Locals are pretty much handing these out, so make sure to grab a copy of them. Then we have My Future Possibilities. So when you buy your structure decks, it will come with a promo pack that contains 1 out of 4 different Z battle cards. Mai is one of the potential ones you can open, and she has an effect that can basically negate an attack if you have a Trunks Future in your Z energy, and that can be very powerful. So definitely a good card to include. We can play up to 7 Z cards in our Z deck. So since this deck only comes with 2 of them, you definitely want to fill the Z deck with more cards. Another card to talk about is Cell Awakening of the Created. Very powerful blue Z battle card. Board wipes a bunch of small guys, can attack for critical twice, can even possibly gain triple strike to complement that critical, but going to be kind of hard to do in most cases. And then finally, this deck is very hard to build in a more meta kind of way because there are a lot of different ways you can go about ramping your energy. For example, we have Ssb Vegeta help from the past. There's also a Goku counterpart to this card, and basically you can pay 2 energy to put this in your energy when this card is ramped, or when this card is revealed from your life, I'm sorry. So by doing that, you get permanent ramp, but it costs you energy. So you got to kind of decide if you want to do the temporary ramp that's free or the permanent ramp that costs energy. And that's something you have to decide if you build a more competitive version of this deck. But anyways, guys, that's going to go over the beginner's guide for Trunks. If you have any questions, please leave them down in the comments below. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next video.